But right now, let's go to this. Video to our monitors out of the Middle East. You see smoke and fire in the sky there. Israel and Iran, they continue to exchange strikes for day 6 now in a row. No end in sight there. In fact, according to Iranian state media, what you see right here to my right is smoke coming from one of Iran's missile production facilities. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump now considering joining forces with Israel to put an end, they say, to Iran's nuclear program. That decision likely hashed out during a Situation Room meeting yesterday. These are the familiar faces CBS News can confirm attended that roundtable. One of the nuclear facilities targeted is this one. The name is Fordow. That site is buried almost 300 feet beneath a mountain and protected by significant air defenses. Sources tell us it is believed to be key to Iran's nuclear program. President Donald Trump was asked if he would strike nuclear sites like this one deep underneath a mountain, and this is what the president said.
You don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine.
Have the Iranians reached out to you?
Yes.
And what did they say?
I said, it's very late. You know? I said, it's very late to be talking. We may meet. It's I don't know. There's a big difference between now and a week ago, right? Big difference.
What does unconditional surrender mean?
Well, you know what it means. Unconditional
Can you explain
surrender.
it for those who don't?
Two very simple words. Very simple. Unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it. I give up. No more. Then we go blow up all the all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. No, they had bad intentions. You know, for 40 years they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. You know, war is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won anything yet. I would say that we sure as hell made a lot of progress. And we'll see. The next week is going to be very big, maybe less.
All right, so meanwhile, Iran doubling down when asked at what point the country would be willing to abandon its uranium stockpile. The Iranian ambassador to the UN responded, quote, Iran is not going to give up its right to use peaceful nuclear technology. So let's go live to the White House and CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro. Aaron, reporters there trying to really clarify some of the remarks we heard from President Trump over the last 24 hours. He keeps using the term we, which begs the question to him, and as well as Pete Hegseth, who just finished testifying to Congress. Just how deeply is the United States getting involved?
Yeah, Reed, good to be with you. We might hear actually from President Trump, who is about to be seen in front of cameras in the White House South Lawn for this flagpole raising. But what we're hearing, at least from President Trump today, he is signaling frustration with Iran for not coming to the negotiation table sooner when it comes to the nuclear deal. He has repeatedly said, and especially the last 24 hours, that he does not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. At the same time, he has told reporters that the U.S. is, quote, not looking for a long-term war. He said he has not given Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who he said he talks to every day, he's not given him any indication that the U.S. will aid Israel more than they have already. Asked what he has told Netanyahu, President Trump told reporters, quote, keep going, and said that he is a good man, is being treated unfairly by his country. At the same time, we just had reporting from our colleague James Laporta that Iran has readied missiles and equipment for strikes on U.S. bases in the region should the U.S. join Israel's war efforts against Iran. That's according to a senior U.S. intelligence official and a Department of Defense official who were briefed on the matter. Again, reporting from our colleague James Laporta. So certainly, while there is somewhat of a holding pattern on what the U.S. does, President Trump is not necessarily relaying that to reporters.
Well, and James's reporting there that you cite there is added to this. You know, Iran seemingly issued a warning to President Trump earlier this morning on social media. That is the place where these communications seem to be playing out these days. Do we know if the president saw or heard those remarks from Iran?
No, at this point, we're unsure. Again, we will potentially hear from the president again if he potentially takes questions at this flagpole raising. But you're right in that during the president's remarks to reporters, he mentioned how Iranians potentially floated going to the White House, kind of portrayed it as if they were begging for a meeting. A UN official with Iran put out a tweet saying that no Iranian official has ever asked to, quote, grovel at the gates of the White House. So certainly some conflicting messages here. But President Trump is not relaying what decision was made in that crucial Situation Room meeting yesterday. When asked about it, he only told reporters, quote, it was a good meeting.
Well, we also know that moments from now, the president will meet with the Chief of Army Staff for Pakistan. What are we watching for there? And is there any connective tissue here?
Yeah, President Trump has really touted his role in achieving some sort of peace between India and Pakistan. Earlier in May, he told reporters that he had talked to India's prime minister recently and is going to continue talking to this Pakistan chief of staff for the military there. But it's interesting because in that readout that we actually just got from that call between India's prime minister and President Trump, the readout, at least from India's side, is that President Trump did not play as much of a role in the mediation in settling that conflict, or at least what it looked like in May. Said, quote, the discussion to cease military action took place directly between India and Pakistan. So certainly an interesting development there, just given that what we've heard from President Trump is that he played a crucial role in stopping that conflict.
All right, Aaron Navarro from the White House lawn. We anticipate you have a very long day ahead, and we'll probably see a lot more of you throughout the day on CBS News 24/7. So let's continue the conversation. Let's bring in CBS News Pentagon reporter Ellie Watson. Ellie, I want to first play back a soundbite of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth at that Senate Armed Services Committee hearing. Earlier, he responded to a question from Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan about building up that strategy to prevent Iran from carrying out attacks. Hegseth blamed the last administration for losing that military deterrence. Let's talk about it.
It's critical, and you're right. It's difficult to reestablish when we lost it, which we did under the Biden administration. We know right now that Tehran understands exactly what the president is saying. He set 60 days. The world can believe it, and the world cannot believe it. He set 60 days. They had an opportunity to make a deal. They should have made a deal. President Trump's word means something. The world understands that. And at the Defense Department, our job is to stand ready and prepared with options, and that's precisely what we're doing.
Okay, so Ellie, having heard what the president said at the top of this broadcast, I may or I may not, how does all of that square, knowing that we are in moments of consequence here where Israel and Iran are concerned and where potential U.S. involvement is concerned as well?
Well, the most consequential decision will be made by the president himself, and what we heard from him this morning is that he may or he may not. It's still a decision that he has to make, or at least tell us that he has made, and it's not an easy decision because he campaigned on not getting involved in foreign wars, and because Iran, as you've mentioned with Aaron, has threatened to retaliate against U.S. forces in the region. What we heard from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is echoing President Trump's frustration that a diplomatic deal has not been reached. The president has said for weeks that he prefers diplomacy, but is obviously getting frustrated that Iran is not coming to the negotiating table. The Secretary of Defense is saying he is providing options should the president decide to abandon the diplomatic effort, should he decide to join Israel's military air campaign, or should Iran decide to force a decision by following through on some of its threats to attack U.S. forces in the region.
Well, and there from the Pentagon, can you give us any clear idea of what U.S. military presence looks like in the region? Because if I'm a mother or father or somebody connected to a man or a woman who is serving in the U.S. military in that entire region, I want to know what their future looks like.
So there are about 40,000 U.S. forces stationed around the Middle East. That's pretty status quo. There is a mix of naval assets throughout the region, including an aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea, some destroyers in the Eastern Med that have been helping intercept Iranian missiles inbound towards Israel. And we've learned today that the Defense Department has directed some additional fighter aircraft squadrons to head to the region, put some others on high alert in case they're needed. The Defense Department is also sending another aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz, which is on its way from the Pacific towards the Middle East. And next week, another aircraft carrier, the USS Ford, will depart from Virginia for a regularly scheduled deployment, but will also head to Europe. So you'll have 3 aircraft carriers in that region. This is all a buildup to, as the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said in his statement on Monday, to enhance the defensive posture of the Americans in the region, but it also provides the president with some pressure to get Iran to come to the table, to pressure Iran, to threaten Iran that if it doesn't come to the table, the U.S. has options at its hands.
Eleanor Watson reporting live from the Pentagon. Thank you so much for that update.